This is my action research presentation for ACTE 699. My name is Trevor Haney, and I'm a teacher at Oxford Area High School. I'm an applied engineering and technology education teacher who teaches classes that range from woodworking to aerospace engineering. I am in the assessment, curriculum, and teaching program with a concentration in STEM education. The purpose of my study was to determine how project-based learning impacts student learning in a STEM classroom. Project-based learning is currently a large buzzword in the STEM community, and research is out there that suggests that project-based learning helps and improves students. But I wanted to find out exactly what those improvements were. I enjoyed doing project-based learning in my classroom, but I've never really tried to see exactly what the benefits of implementing it are in my class. After I figured out what the purpose of my study, I really wanted to aim my research question to what are the effects of project-based learning on student success in a 9th to 12th grade STEM classroom. I wanted to really narrow down my research question to my specific courses that I teach to better aid my teaching and find the benefits of conducting project-based learning. Once I knew what my research question was, I investigated scholarly journals to find what information was available to me on project-based learning. It was really important to see what other researchers have found when conducting similar research. I found that Nagiri, Hussain, and Anderson completed a research study that showed that students' perceived notion of project-based learning was positive, and most students walked away with the feeling that they have indeed learned more than just a traditional way of learning. Another scholarly journal that I read was from Cantor and Konstantopoulos that found the more project-based learning that was implemented in the classroom, the better the underrepresented students performed. An article that I found from Han, Caprero, and Comprero, which was the most important to my study, the research that they conducted focused on the direct impact of project-based learning in the classroom and how it impacted different levels of students. Their study, which was similar to the Cantor and Konstantopoulos article, found that the lower performing students benefited the most from project-based learning and that there was not as much gained from those that were higher level learners. After reading and sorting through the previously done research, it was time for me to conduct my own research in the classroom. The study that I conducted was based on 32 students in an introductory STEM class. I have 2 sections of the course, one during my first period and another during my 8th period. I chose those classes because both classes had students from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And I could use one class as the control, and the other class would be my test group. I decided to use my first period students as the test group and my 8th period as the control. I gave both classes a pretest to get a baseline of what knowledge they understood. It was interesting because it was such a diverse group of students that some did really well on the pretest, while others really did not. Some seniors had already been exposed to statistics, while most freshmen were only in algebra. Then it was time to see the impacts of project-based learning. I started teaching both classes on the same day, as a reference to gauge the time it took to complete the research. Both classes were given the exact same teacher-led presentation on statistics. I tried my best to make sure that I said the exact same thing to both classes and completed the lesson in the same amount of time. Once I was done giving my lesson, I gave both classes a worksheet that they completed on how to find statistical analysis on datasets. Once the students had completed the worksheet in the test group, I then gave them the project-based learning activity. The activity that they had to complete is known as the fling machine project. The students needed to create a machine that flung a cotton ball as far as possible and collect statistical data based upon the distance the cotton ball traveled. The students in the test group were broken into teams and created their machines out of various materials that I had. The students that were completing the fling machine had a worksheet that they needed to complete as they worked their way through the project. The other students in the other class, who acted as my control group, did not complete the fling machine. Instead, they only had to complete the worksheet, and were only given a few practice problems on the board to complete. At the end of the fling machine, or the practice problems on the board, both classes had to complete a post-test. The post-test was the same as the pre-test. All of the data that I collected was based upon growth of the students from pre-test to post-test. However, I was able to observe the students' behaviors and was able to see how well the students did when completing the project or the worksheet. The findings of my research, looking at the growth of the students and trying to see the impact project-based learning has on students, found that my control group of students who did not complete the project-based learning had an average of 61% growth from pre-test to post-test. The test group that did complete the project-based learning activity found that they had an average growth of 73% from pre-test to post-test. So my research concluded that project-based learning aided my class in a 12% growth compared to not completing project-based learning. It was also noted that the students who completed the fling machine activity were more actively engaged and also learned more soft skills like working on a team than the students who did not complete the project-based learning. In conclusion, I learned a lot in my research project. I found that the trade-off of project-based learning is worth the extra time to complete. The students learned more from the implementation of project-based learning. It did require more time for me to plan, and it took more time for the students to construct and complete the project-based learning. However, the 12% gained is worth the time and effort of both my part and the students. I plan to show my findings to my principal. We're currently creating a brand new class in our technology education department, and this research is going to be used as a basis to implement more project-based learning in the future courses. Overall, I enjoyed this action research project. I think it opened my eyes to the impact of the activities that I do in my classroom and has forced me to reflect on my teaching practices to become a better and more informed teacher. Thank you.